3 ways to stop being invisible as a man. Hi everyone, Dan here from The Geek Physique, back for another video. Before we get into the video, make sure you like, subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell. So you're at an event and you notice everyone else staring at some guy. The guy's in really good shape. He seems really good socially. He's not awkward. He goes up to people, he introduces himself, has good posture. Really just has a confidence about him. And the jealousy starts to creep in your mind. If this sounds familiar, honestly, this is similar to a lot of the guys we speak to and actually work with on their fitness. They tell me similar stories. And so I'm going to give you 3 tips you should focus on to stop being invisible. Number 1, ignore the external world and focus on you. Focusing on what you can't control is a waste of time, because no matter how much time you actually spend thinking about it, nothing changes, because remember, it's things you can't actually control. Whereas if you put all of that time and energy onto yourself, which is the biggest thing you can control, you will actually start to make meaningful change. And oftentimes, being invisible as a man comes from a lack of confidence. And I heard this from the Modern Wisdom podcast, Chris Williamson, who also, I think he got it from Alex Hormozy, who said you should outwork your self-doubt. Confidence comes from an undeniable stack of real achievements, not shouting affirmations at yourself in the mirror. And I think it's such a good way of putting it, that once you've earned the right to be confident, it's not something you have to fake, because you have real world tangible reasons to be confident and to carry yourself with confidence, and you have interesting things to talk about, right? So it all starts with you. I know that seems really obvious, but we all have to remind ourselves of this. Even if you have gained some success already in your life, it can be very easy to look at how good other people are doing, how good they've got it, and you can get into this thought loop of going, well, they have it easier than me, why is it so hard for me? And you're focusing on all these things which are pretty much outside your control, and it's the same as if you're like focusing maybe on your height or something like that. Even if you're focusing on yourself, but you're focusing on things you can't control, maybe your past, right? You can't control your past because it's already happened. And a lot of people are living in the past. All you can do is control who you are in the present in your actions now. Number 2, once you move the focus to yourself and what you can control, you should fill your time with meaningful pursuits. I often say to guys that we work with that you should stop watching the news, because in all honesty, I personally can't see any value in watching the news. Comment below if you disagree with me, but I haven't really sat down to actually watch the news in years, and I'm all the better for it, because when I wake up, I think about what do I need to do today for myself, for me in my relationship, for me and my family, in my social circle, basically stuff to do with my own life, not external events that I really don't have that much control over. Again, tying back into point number 1. And I got really into my meaningful pursuits of the day, and that comes down to my actual to-do list, right? But to zoom out a little bit, fitness comes first. I know it's a really obvious thing. Obviously, this is predominantly a fitness-based channel, but it's also self-improvement, which is more so what this video is about, more holistic self-improvement for men. But fitness does come first, because it's really the bedrock of your dedication, your consistency, how you handle stress, right? All of that stuff, I believe, comes from you getting up and doing something that you don't feel like doing, but you do it anyway. And that's what great men do. Great men are busy and they do things even when they don't feel like doing them, right? And fitness is going to tick off both those boxes. You're going to be too busy if you're doing a bicep curl, you're doing a heavy squat, especially if you're doing a heavy squat, more so than a bicep curl, to be thinking about, that guy at the party that you were jealous of, going back to the example I gave at the start, right? You are going to be actually focused on bettering yourself. And like I said, as you build that dedication and consistency, it's just going to impact every other part of your life in a positive way. Now, further to that, once you've got into a routine with your fitness and, you work out regularly, whether it be at home or the gym, you're thinking about your food, your protein intake, your calories for the day, all of that good stuff, which we cover in other videos, if you need help on that. Take on more responsibility at work, right? Even if your job isn't something that you love doing, do it like you love it. Like, I honestly, this would be one of the pieces of advice I'd give my younger self, where I did jobs that I didn't necessarily absolutely love, and I knew I wasn't going to do them forever. But the times where I did do those jobs, maybe it was something in retail or something like that, and I actually did put in effort, I did learn. And there were certain skills that I took with me onto the career that I then pursued later on. So I would say pick up the pieces of work that people don't want to do, right? There's often lots of stuff in any job where people just don't want to do it. It's not fun, but it sets you apart from the crowd, right? And there's no piece of work that's ever beneath you, right? It was actually Modern Wisdom I was watching again this week, had David Goggins on, and he was talking about this person that was in the army, basically, and he had the Medal of Honor for being a war hero and putting his own life at risk, saving others. And this war hero, in his retirement, he was a janitor, and where he was a janitor of, I think it was like a university or college, the kids there didn't really pay him much attention or give him much respect, and little did they know he was a war hero, right? And I think the more of that story is you're never above work, and there's plenty of work to be done right in front of you. And going back to the point of this video, to take your focus off being invisible and actually feeling that way, because that's where it usually comes from, is feeling that way. Like we said, you need to have meaningful pursuits, but there are plenty of meaningful jobs to be done right in front of you. Like, that's why Jordan Peterson says to clean your room before criticizing the world. It's the exact same idea. So take on more responsibility at work, and as well, practice a hobby, right? Maybe you are a bit of a singer, or you play guitar, or maybe you used to do that and you want to get back into it, or you want to get into martial arts alongside which I do recommend that, by the way, alongside your gym training. Whatever it is, fill your time with genuinely meaningful pursuits that will develop you as a man, where you're going to learn things about yourself that you wouldn't be able to learn by just watching a video, right? Because you're not going to learn everything by watching this video. These are just ways of just framing it for you to go and then take action, right? This is meaningless if you don't actually then go and take action on it. And then you start to see, well, and this is something I genuinely learned. It seems so obvious, right? But it wasn't until I really started doing this where I was like, I don't have time to really think about being insecure anymore, or feeling invisible, or being that guy I felt like I was when I was much younger. I don't really even have time to be that person anymore, because I'm so focused on things that are genuinely meaningful for me, that are going to move me forward, that are going to make me a better man, stuff to do with my relationships, with my family, with my friends. And once you're filling your time with all of that genuinely important stuff, before you know it, you've become the man you always wanted to be. And you're already doing things a lot, and you're doing so much in your life where you're not even thinking about it as much as you used to. Number 3, once you start those pursuits, compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not someone else today. This is a rule from one of Jordan Peterson's books, one of my favorite rules. It is ultimately a competitive world out there, of course it is. And in some ways, and in a lot of ways actually, it is player versus player in, in your work. Maybe if you're pursuing a relationship with a girl, maybe there's another guy who's trying to get with that girl. It could be many things where you might be competing against someone else. But I do believe that the best comparison you can make mentally, especially when you're in this place of being invisible and feeling invisible, is against yourself. And once you start those meaningful pursuits, you should measure your success against who you were yesterday, a week ago, a year ago. And this should be measured in a lot of different ways. There is real practical measures you can do, like actual body measurements, like if you're trying to increase your biceps, right? Or if you're trying to lose 10 pounds, those are really obvious. But also in your habits. And this is something a lot of the guys we work with really benefit from seeing, is the fact that maybe the scale doesn't move, right? And remember, the scale only tells you one story. Your measurements might be moving. If you're not doing them, scale doesn't move. You don't know how good you're doing. But in addition to that, the fact that you now train 4 times a week and you never used to do that, that's a massive change. Now, just imagine the type of man you would be if you kept that up for the next 6 months. That's the type of guy that then would take his job more seriously, try harder, push for that promotion, apply for new jobs, right? Start his own business. That's the type of man who's more likely to do it, not the guy who can't even be consistent with a gym routine, or can't even be consistent with his steps, or can't even control the food that goes in his mouth. Again, like I said, fitness comes first. But once you start to change your habits, you should really take stock of that. I'm not saying to just smell the roses and stop, but take stock of who you're becoming and really be proud of yourself, right? No one can take that away from you. No one can take away from the hard work you're doing, because you're putting in the work and you can see the tangible results, whether that would be something you can measure or in your actual habits changing. And then you're going to become the type of man, goes to the gym, has his own business, has got that promotion at work, does the hard work even when he doesn't feel like it, is someone that people can rely on, right? And this all helps with, as I just kind of summarize all these points together, these will all help you feel and stop being invisible socially, right? And with women, because if for anything, you're going to have more interesting stories, right? You're going to have more experience. And that, I think, is what a lot of great men have as well, is they have amazing experiences to draw from, experiences that are different from other guys, right? What makes you unique? Oh, you did that job for that long, you went there, you traveled, you've built up your body, you used to be really overweight, now you're not. All of these things are things to be proud of. There's stories you can tell, right? There's paradoxes you can draw from them. Like if you've been really overweight before and now you're in really good shape, there's amazing spins you can take on that, right? Really positive, funny things that you can say about yourself. Now you've been there and done that. And I see this all the time in the guys that we work with. They just change mentally. They shift. There's people I'm even thinking of right now. I won't name any names, but there's people I'm thinking of where they've come to me and they've been in such a bad place mentally, so focused on all of these things they can't control, their past, and focusing on, oh, I'm always going to be this way. I've never been the type of guy that wins in life in general. And then when they start winning, they start focusing on what they can control. They start doing things for other people as well, meaningful pursuits, like I said. And I regularly like to remind them, and then they start to just see it themselves. Wow, look at how I've changed mentally. Look at the language I'm using when I speak. I'm no longer as negative as I used to be. And all of these things will contribute to you not being invisible as a man, having a real sense of confidence that you've actually earned. You know, it's not something cookie cutter. It's not something where you've psyched yourself up. You know, it's not pretend game or anything like that. It's something you've genuinely put in the work, you've reaped the rewards, and you just rinse and repeat that. And no one's ever the finished article. I'm still working on myself. We're all still working on ourselves, that I'm sure, watching this video. But hopefully this just gives you some clarity around why these points are so important and how powerful they can be when you start taking action. So if anything, you should take action on this video, right? Switch off right now. But before you do, like the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell like I said at the start. There's probably going to be a video here or here for you to keep watching. But honestly, in this case, I'd much rather you go ahead, take action, and start moving forward towards those meaningful goals, building your confidence, and then you won't feel invisible any longer. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.